From a silly website meant for college kids at Harvard to one of the largest social media platforms in the world with several billion users, there is no question about it. Mark is the king of social media. But like any king, he's learned that it's lonely on top. Despite the success of Facebook, now Meta, the company is being hammered with controversy ranging from criticism towards its business model to legal trouble. Even its countless users aren't afraid to criticize the company. So, how did things change for Mark? Welcome to Wealthy Takes, where we discuss the stories of the wealthiest and most influential people and how they made their fortune. Today, we will be discussing the rise and possible fall of Mark Zuckerberg. The resident programmer. Mark was born on May 14, 1984 in White Plains, New York, but grew up in Dobbs Ferry. His life was well off thanks to his parents, Edward and Karen, who worked as a dentist and psychiatrist respectively. As a teenager, Mark had shown signs of great intelligence. During his time as a high school student at Phillips Exeter Academy, he was a top-performing student, excelling in his classes and even becoming the school captain of the fencing team. However, his real passion was software development. By age 12, he could already code software using his Atari Basic. One of his earliest projects was the messaging platform he dubbed Zucknet, which allowed him to send messages to his friends and family. Aside from Zucknet, Mark would also create games and programs for his friends. They would often come to his house and suggest ideas, while Mark used the computer to bring them to life. Among his most famous creations was a music software called Synapse, which detected your taste in music. It was highly innovative back then, with even AOL and Microsoft offering to buy the software and take Mark in as an engineer, but he declined both offers. All of this work gave Mark valuable coding experience for the future, which would be very useful in college, as Mark was accepted into Harvard University. By his second year, Mark had the reputation of the go-to coding engineer if you needed some software. One project was called Course Match, and it helped students pick out the best classes based on their schedule and course. Another software was FaceMash, a ranking program that displayed two students and allowed their classmates to vote on who was more attractive. The latter was only around for a few days though, as the Harvard administration shut it down, deeming it inappropriate. But none of these ideas would compare to his magnum opus and his first major controversy. With his well-received projects, three seniors, Divya Narendra, and twins Cameron and Tyler Winklevoss, who wanted his help with an idea, had approached Mark. The thing they wanted to create was called the Harvard Connection. It would be a dating website where students could post information about themselves so it could match them with other people around campus. While Mark agreed to help, he would never create the project, as he began working on his website. Known as the Facebook, at that time he described it as a directory for students to get to know each other by sharing their personal information. If this sounds familiar to you, it certainly did to the trio who sued Mark for stealing their idea. They would eventually settle out of court, but it would mark the start of the social network. Rise of Facebook. Mark began to expand his project's reach by recruiting fellow students to allow users to add photos, communicate with each other, and post updates. They then began letting students from other colleges join. By the end of 2004, there would be more than 1 million users. It got so big so quickly that Mark dropped out of college to focus on it. Soon after, he would get his first investor, Sean Parker, who would become the company's first president and shorten the name to just Facebook. Facebook first started targeting high schoolers, but would soon only require that users be 13 years old and have an email address. By 2009, the website had grown to be the most used social media platform in the world. Mark created Facebook when the internet gold rush was starting to dry up. There weren't that many new websites becoming big, so no one was expecting any serious disruptions. But here, Mark revolutionized the internet, and soon even older people were getting on Facebook. It got so big that Sony Pictures made a movie about him called The Social Network. By 2012, Facebook would go public with an IPO of $16 billion. Cracks in the wall. For a while, it seemed as though Mark was on top of the world. Facebook was one of the leading social media platforms on the planet, and he was one of the most successful tech CEOs. This was in no small part because of his genius, but perhaps also due to his ruthlessness. Even from its early days, Mark wasn't above making calculated business decisions. That instinct didn't change as Facebook grew into an international company. An example of this would be when Mark acquired Instagram and WhatsApp to secure Facebook's continued user growth and dominance in the market. He would try the same thing with Snapchat, but this time the developers would refuse his offer. Instead, he took its features and implemented them on Instagram. While a shrewd business move, some question the ethics of taking the features of another app and putting it on your own. To protect the continued growth of Facebook, they have accused Mark of compromising users' privacy and information. Mark would often allow advertisers access to user data so that they could personalize the ads based on that information. The worst was yet to come as a firm known as Global Science Research conducted a survey on Facebook on over 300,000 or so respondents to gather their data. Due to lax security policies, the firm was also able to access the data of many of the users and their friends. In total, GSR walked away with the information of over 87 million users. Unfortunately, it didn't end with a few ads. Once Global Science Research got its data, it sold it to another company, Cambridge Analytica. This company has used Facebook's user data in targeted political ads in order to sway voters during elections. It has linked Cambridge Analytica to the campaigns of several political figures, such as Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, and the Brexit vote. Mark himself was called to appear before the US House of Representatives to answer these issues. This appearance didn't help Mark's reputation either, as many have accused Mark as unconcerned and unrepentant. In the end, Mark would pay a fine and promise to enhance security for Facebook, but would leave a lasting black mark on Facebook's reputation. Unfortunately, it would not be the last time he would face legal trouble for negligence. Many have also accused Mark of being negligent in dealing with fake news sites on his platforms. Facebook has been used to raise awareness of actual issues, such as poverty, disaster relief, and other social issues. It helped many relief organizations in building a following and fundraising for their causes. Unfortunately, fake news peddlers have been a common sight on the platform. Extremist political groups from all over the world would use Facebook as a way to spread their message. Perhaps the most troubling case was the Rohingya genocide, where Facebook failed to take action against fake news groups and hate speech against the Rohingya people. The issue became so bad that Mark faced a class action lawsuit for negligence. With all these issues, it was no surprise that users would begin to migrate to other platforms like Twitter, Reddit, TikTok, and even YouTube. However, Mark still has one trick up his sleeve. In 2021, Mark announced that he would be pivoting away from traditional social media and focusing his attention on VR by developing the metaverse. Building the metaverse. With the pandemic changing how people work and hang out, Mark saw an opportunity to develop virtual reality technology. The metaverse, he proposed, would be a virtual world where everyone was free to customize their appearance and either work or hang out with their friends. As he already owned Oculus, securing the hardware would be a simple process. More importantly, this could allow him to circumvent some of the restrictions posed by other hardware companies like Apple and Microsoft. To show his commitment to this plan, Mark changed Facebook's name to Meta. Work on the project has begun, with tens of billions of dollars being invested in it. The first of these new metaverse apps was called Horizon Worlds, a multiplayer virtual platform. Mark envisioned a massive platform where players could interact, create new worlds, and host events in this game. The game was released in December 2022, and in about 10 months, Mark promised that there would be at least 300,000 players, later revised to 250,000. However, as the date came and went, Horizon World failed to meet even these expectations and only has 200,000 active users. The game was widely criticized for having poor graphics, due to technological limitations and unfun gameplay due to a lack of players. All this criticism has caused Meta's stock price to plummet, falling by as much as 70%. Meta has also laid off over 10,000 employees, one of the largest layoffs in the tech industry. Yet while the company was recovering from Meta, a new opportunity presented itself. With Twitter struggling, this opened the possibility to create a rival platform. The product that came out was Threads. This app was meant to serve as a replacement for Twitter, allowing users to create bite-sized posts. Within a few weeks, Threads would have more than 100 million users. That is not to say that everything was perfect. There were some problems, such as the account being linked to your Instagram account. This made it impossible to delete Threads without deleting your Instagram too. This also put him at odds with Elon Musk, who accused him of stealing the concept of Twitter. But whatever the case, this has put Meta and Mark back on the map, and only time will tell if he can maintain that success.